Welcome back to Medrash U'Maaseh, sharing a story for this week's Parsha, Parshas Emor. In 1913, Tafresh Ein Gimel, there took place a famous journey called Masa Rabbanim LaMoshavot, the trip of the Rabbonim to visit the settlements. This was a fabulous event that happened in the history of Am Yisrael returning to Eretz Yisrael. It was a trip headed by Harav Avraham Yitzchak Kook Zatzal, who was then Rav of Yafo and the surrounding areas, Harav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld Zatzal from Yerushalayim, Rav Ben Zion Yadler, the famous Yerushalmi Magid, who was also an expert in the separating of Trumas and Maasros and all of the mitzvahs Hatzuyus Ba'aretz, the agricultural mitzvahs, Rav Moshe Clears, the Rav of Tveria, and other very high-ranking Rabbonim, tremendous Talmidei Chachamim and Tzaddikim, who were going out to visit the new settlements that had sprung up around Eretz Yisrael in an attempt to bridge the gap, to reconnect them to Torah and mitzvahs, and especially in terms of education, trying to ensure that there would be proper Jewish education in these places, and that the mitzvahs hatzuyos ba'aretz, as people farmed and produced produce in Eretz Yisrael, that the mitzvahs hatzuyos ba'aretz, the trumas and maasros, and others would be kept so that the food would be kosher to eat. It wouldn't have the status of tevel, which is forbidden to eat midoraisa. One of the places they visited was a settlement called Atlit. Atlit was named after an Arab village that had been nearby. When the Rabbonim came to Atlit, so the Vad, the council of the Moshava, made a meeting with them together in one evening, and they were very enthusiastic about the things that the Rabbonim wanted. One of the things they asked the Rabbonim to do was to choose a Hebrew name for the settlement. Now, there was a teacher on the Moshava who was very anti-religious and was a source of a lot of the problems, and he objected to the idea of asking the Rabbonim to pick a Hebrew name for the settlement, because he said that the famous Zionist leader and historian Professor Kloisner had come on a visit a while ago, and he had decided that the name should be Magdiel. Rav Kook pointed out that Magdiel was the name we find in the Torah of one of the Alufim of Esav, one of the families of Esav, so not a very positive name for a settlement which is being built in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Horowitz pointed out that it's sometimes used by Christians because of connections to the name Magdalene, and also has negative connotations. So the residents asked that the Rabbonim please choose a fitting name in Lashon HaKodesh for the place. The teacher became very angry. He felt that it was disrespect to Professor Kloisner to ask these Rabbonim to say something when he has already rendered his opinion. And he finally pulled out his trump card. He said to the people of the committee, says, "You don't keep Shabbos," says, "You don't eat kosher. Why in the world are you asking rabbis to name your settlement? And why are you listening to their requests for strengthening Torah and mitzvahs?" The people of the Moshava stood up to this teacher, and Rav Kook suggested the name Trumiyah, that it should be called Trumiyah, which is mentioned in Tanakh, but especially reminds us of their acceptance to keep the mitzvahs of Trumas and Maasros, those things which have to be separated from the produce in order that the mitzvahs of the land of Israel should be done. This was accepted enthusiastically by the people. They wrote up a document that night agreeing to have a system where Trumas and Maasros would be separated. They agreed to strengthen observance of Shabbos. They asked that the Rabbonim arrange for a teacher to come who would teach their children about Torah and Tefillah, unlike the teacher who was there at the time. And they also asked to be provided with a Sefer Torah that they didn't have. Rav Horowitz committed himself, he said, to giving them a Sefer Torah, and they said if they receive it in time, they would read it first on Parshas Truma to celebrate the name of their Moshav, Trumiyah. The next day, Rav Ben Zion Yadler separated the Trumas and Maasros from their produce. And the evening after the meeting, it finished around midnight, and the Rabbonim spoke with the people. They sat down to eat a Seuda, to eat their supper at 2 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, with such great Torah personalities there was much discussion and of Divrei Torah, but they also sang songs of Shiras v'Tishbochos. They sang songs of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on having a positive effect and connecting the people and the land to the Torah, and this was something that they rejoiced in very much. Unfortunately, many of the things that the Rabbonim set into motion at that time on that trip, some of them did remain, but some of them were halted because World War I broke out. Definitely what they did had an effect which was lasting right to this very day. The name Trumiyah didn't remain. It slipped back to Atlit, which is there, but nonetheless, deep inside, that is the name of the place, and those Trumos and Maisros that were separated remain forever. In this week's Parsha, we learn about the Ktsira HaOmer, the harvesting of the Omer, that first new Tvua, which is harvested and brought to the Beis HaMikdash. When you come to the land, the Torah says, Ktsartem es Ksira, and you harvest the bounty, the grain. This is something of tremendous simcha, but it's only simcha when it's connected together to the Torah and mitzvahs. The Rabbonim were coming to let us understand that those three aspects have to go together. Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael have meaning only when connected to Torah Yisrael. May the schus of their Mesiras Nefesh and the Mesiras Nefesh of those settlers who didn't know so much, but enthusiastically supported what the Rabbonim wanted to do and hoped for more, may that continue as we see Baruch Hashem, Torah and mitzvahs growing in Eretz Yisrael, Trumas and Maisros being separated throughout the country, and may we see the full rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash b'meherav Yameinu. Have a wonderful Shabbos.